facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating, especially you. I'm incredibly grateful that you would join us, whether you're listening live or listening later on the podcast. We're all on Poditize, the Win-Win Women Network, Roku live streaming. Just keep finding us. We're ending up, I'm beginning to, in a week, 2 weeks, I guess. I'll be starting season 2. It's hard to believe that this show now is number 49. I can hardly breathe about that. I'm like, how does this time go so fast, right? So today I have an incredibly powerful and beautiful guest. And before I introduce Adina Peyton to you, I want us to have our little 22-second mini vacation. We're going to have a deep breathing in calm for 7 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and breathing out gratitude for 11 seconds. So just a quick little breath. We're going to get off of, our techie devices we're so connected to. Sometimes we need to get a little breather and get grounded and centered. And that's what this is all about. So if you'll just join me and let's take in 7 seconds of calm. Here we go. Hold. Release. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Gratitude. Don't you feel better? I do. Anyway, today on the Charla Anderson Show, I have someone who has dealt with something none of us would ever, 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 ever expect to deal with or wish to deal with. And she has changed tragedy into a graceful situation. Adina Peyton lost her son tragically in a standoff. He's mentally ill. He had issues, and there was a shootout basically, and he was shot 16 times. And I can't fathom that. And what I've learned is most of us eventually can turn those tragedies into a mission of some sort. Adina, I think it was a split-second moment that you had a realization that not only were I think I want to call it, I feel like your rage, your anger turned into empathy for the shooters, for the people that actually made a mistake, so to speak. And so let's talk about that a little bit, but we also want to know, who are you in this world, and how are you so passionate about honoring the life of your son?
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. It really was a split second, like divine intervention moment. And there's no other way to explain it, because when someone harms your child, whether it's an accident or intentional, there is just a feeling that you have to make it right. You have to make sure that, that people know the truth. And I just had this feeling that I needed, accountability and transparency about what happened. And I felt like I had to do that for my son. And I had fought and fought every way I could for about 9 months. And I was sitting at the red light, and I could see the place where he had been shot in the street. And I looked over, and in a split second, God showed me what those 7 first responders saw the night that they shot Brad. And it was something that I couldn't undo in my spirit. It immediately disarmed me. And I realized that I could not cure mental illness. I couldn't really even barely touch it, but I could affect the community of first responders in Huntsville, because if Brad had some mental illness and I was now traumatized by hearing about what happened, they certainly must be traumatized. And so I started thinking about how I could affect that. And I realized that first responders are like the military, because I've taught the military for 42 years. And when they would get PTSD, they couldn't really voice it like they needed to, because they would be flagged and there would be reprisals and things like that. And so I started thinking on ways to be able to help them. And it was a man in Dallas that I had been one of my students. He was the son of an African king. He flew to Huntsville and told me that he thought that I was a light in the world and that I needed to stop fighting and I needed to start, helping. And I told him that my concern was that, they got away with this. And he told me nobody ever gets away with anything, but you need to live, Adina, and you need to be a light. And then the miracle started happening. It was just an immediate shift in that moment.
That's
And I
beautiful.
can tell you all about. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, you're in Huntsville, Alabama, so we can speak the state there, and so there's a Huntsville, Texas, So, yeah. So the immediate, I mean, see, I wrote a book called Split Second Transformation. We can change in a split second, and so many things do. I mean, his obviously all of those lives changed in a split second, and everybody involved, and sometimes it's for good, and sometimes it's hard. A split second that's not so good, and you learned, you shifted from that rage and anger and vindictive or whatever it was you were going through to, it's got to be really hard for them as well. These are human beings that are going through stuff on the aftermath. And it's not just them. The first responders, the police, the fire, all of them deal with trauma almost on a daily basis.
They do,
So,
and doctors and emergency personnel, and the thing about it was, it's hard to look at it in a snapshot, because there was so much leading up to it. There was so much during the period of time that I was fighting for accountability, and then the bigger story is what happened in the middle of it. What God did with this story in my life was just nothing short of incredible. When this happened, as a woman, I had spent my whole life trying to be somebody. I had it in my mind that the way I was raised wasn't good enough, and somehow I was substandard. So I was always trying to be with the right people, do the right things to fit in with the people. And my son, I had passed that along to him, so we were like two children being raised together. And so when this happened, when people did not respond to me like I thought they would, and it wasn't just the death of a child, I was fighting the thin blue line. I mean, I was fighting the entire city council. And I was petrified, because the person that I had tried to become was now almost like a fraud, like now they know I'm who I am. And it was interesting that God used that, because the one thing that could make me become the strong woman that God wanted me to be was defending my child. And I just didn't think I had the courage to one, survive his death and not drink because I was sober, I'd been sober for years. But two, it was to stand up for the first time in my life, no matter what anybody thought about me, knowing, people, my neighbors didn't even speak to me. They didn't come and tell me they were sorry. It was like something out of a book, and the media would not report it. So I just was amazed that for the first time, God put that on my heart. Adina, you've got to carry this baton for the people that don't have a voice in this community, the activists, because I had sat in my house and watched activists for years and thought, well, how can they do that? Like, don't they know what people are saying? Because it meant more to me to look good, to be somebody, than to really be somebody. And it was, now this is 3 years later, so it wasn't like this just came. But the beginning of it is when, the beginning is when I put billboards up all over town and raised money and begged like a vagrant on Facebook for people to give me money, because it was so important that I at least know before I left the earth that I tried to do something about a problem that I saw. And the sad part was I didn't do anything until it happened to me. But I did.
Well, but you did. And so it's that moment that we shift, and I'm excited that you're writing a book about all this, and I got to read, I guess part of the first chapter or whatever, and the hurt people, and you had a pretty tragic childhood and upbringing, alcoholic, and all these things, abuse, and then you wanted to prove yourself. The word I feel like kept coming to me while you're saying all that. You want to prove yourself that, yeah, I'm capable. I'm better. I mean, I'm past all that, don't look. And it was probably feeling what they call it, imposter, right? Imposter syndrome. You think you're trying to be somebody, but you're not. It's not real. It's not authentic. It's not real. And now look at you. This you stood up and you took a stand, and the stand isn't about retribution or anything.
Yeah.
That it is about knowledge. It's about education. It's about serving those that serve us on a daily basis. And when you talk about the first responder community, and it does include a whole lot of peripheral people that we don't normally think of, like, the trauma nurses and I mean, there's people that deal with stuff all the time, daily basis, that it's challenging. So you created, and you're the founders, executive director, I guess, of GRAMI, GRAMI, Getting Real About Mental Illness.
Perfect.
And you're really targeting the police. After a while, they started seeing what you were offering and creating a space for these folks to go in and get counseling or help, therapies, whatever they needed, at no cost and at no and anonymously, I guess is the word, right? So tell me all about that.
Girl, this is the exciting part. Okay, but there's a backstory, because I didn't realize what my story was going to be. I thought it was, look what happened to me. Look, look at us, poor us, bad them. And as it started playing out, I started seeing how each one of these phases kind of uncovered something in me that was broken. And so in the beginning, it was, hey, look, I have to have a crowd around me all the time to be powerful. God is big, but not as big as all the people around me. And so I was allowed to figure out to walk alone. Well, then, I thought I was mad at the police, but I really wasn't. I was mad at a system that we designed that puts it to where they can't really admit And they've done it, when you see somebody die, or you see somebody on the road, or somebody shoots at you 3 times in a week, it does something to the brain, no matter how good or bad you are. And the trauma builds up, and they are not forced, because I'm not pointing it like people. It's just that if they admit, so we're trying to destigmatize mental illness. That's the number one goal of my organization. If we don't talk about it, we can't destigmatize it. So I could not go to seek mental help when my son died, because I had a secret security clearance. They can't go, because if they have enough trauma to say I have it, they'll have to pull their weapon, which will not immediately take away their income, but it will affect it. And they didn't join the force to be on the desk. And then the third one is, they are walking the beat. They are police officers that if your mother has Alzheimer's and she runs out the back door, or she's autistic and they don't know that, and she rushes for them, they would have to, draw a gun. And so what this does is it allows them a secret way, if you will, to go to any licensed a licensed mental health counselor. The only person that will ever know they went was the treasurer of the nonprofit. But, we've had to build trust, because, see, it was hard for me because they shot my son. And then when I started trying to give back help, there was a distrust. Well, what I found is that's what society's problem is. We don't trust each other. We're in a sue happy society, which is what they thought I was trying to do, is sue the city. And I wasn't. I was truly thinking that we were going to all get together, decide what needed to change, and go forth, And the beautiful part is as I stayed consistent, it started to show. I just had to keep believing that God was strong enough to keep me going. I had to learn that I did not need a lot of people in my life to cheerlead me. And I had to learn that I had to let the ones go that were not for me. And that was a very new concept in somebody that needs people and is secure. You do whatever it takes to keep people. So it was kind of like benefiting the city, learning that I was okay alone, and then really loving them. As I met the girl that talked to my son on the roof for 3.5 hours. I never found out the 7 officers that shot Brad, and I don't need to know, but I pray for them all the time, as my son had prayed for the police in his prayer journals, which I thought was beautiful. But the little girl was 21 years old, and we did not have crisis intervention training running full strength. So had we had a crisis intervention trained officer, it might have gone differently, But I was able by accident to meet this little girl, and I just held her in my arms, and she was beautiful. And the guilt that she carries around is traumatic. And so that just made me want to go harder at getting them help, because we're really all at the end of the day just children in big bodies. Mm-hmm. So it's, and every time that I hear somebody say, because of you, my child made it, because then I'm like, it just reminds me of Brad and what God can do with all of us if we allow him to.
Amazing story, amazing tenacity. We can name all kinds of things, but you're an overcomer, and I love to talk about stories of people that have overcome and that actually offer hope. So that's kind of the undercurrent of my show, generally speaking. Just showcasing the strength that we can come from and have within, and come out and find a way to make a difference. And for you have gotten so far with this GRAMI, and it's GRAMI us.org if you
Yes.
want to go and donate. GRAMIUS gramius.org if you care to go look up this incredible foundation, I guess. Is it a foundation, nonprofit?
It's a nonprofit. Mm-hmm.
And look at the good that they're doing and how you went from, I mean, 3 years is pretty fast to have gotten to the point where you are now. I mean, that's rapid, so the machine rolls slowly, right? And so what a gift and a blessing that you've gained so much strength of character. And
well, it's really like, I don't want to sound like too more adult than I really am. But when, my whole life, because I was different, and I was different because I was supposed to be used to help to fit in a place other people don't fit. And I've always identified with, the underdog person. But what I allowed to happen, because I'm trying to do a little teaching here, I'm a teacher. What I allowed to happen was, because I didn't know who I was supposed to be, I allowed people that said negative things like, "Oh, she's just crazy." Well, I took that on. If you said something, it had more weight than what I thought. And so I would consistently self-talk with you, but you're too crazy, but you're too crazy, but you're not, like I was not a detailed person. My boss used to say, "Adina, you're the best teacher we have, but we should bust you out of the glass when it's time to teach and put you back in there," because details were not my thing. So when this African prince flew to my home, and y'all, this, it's all different once you've, kind of gotten on the other side. But this was a Sunday. I had marched with another family. Now, marched was not in my vocabulary because we just don't do that. We're good. We're the civilized. We're not doing that. It was my son's birthday. It was the other family's death day of their daughter. It went kind of awry. And, I was accused of, trying to steal that thunder. And I just laid on the ground and I cried. I cried until I could not cry anymore. And I came home and I was like, I don't know what else to do, because I was in the media all the time. And for a person that wanted, I went to city council and I thought they were going to seriously embrace me, love me, but it didn't work out that way because the lawyer told them to quit talking to me. So the very last day, I just pretty much blessed them all out one by one, told them exactly what I thought about it, and just defeated, trying to hold on to my faith, But when he walked in, he said, "You are going to start a nonprofit, and I'm going to do your logo for my nonprofit in Africa." My mind said, there is no way in Hades I'm doing a nonprofit. I don't even check my email at work. So the mere fact that God could use somebody that has a past, I mean, I'm in recovery, somebody that didn't have the skill set. The next phase was, Adina, if you keep being Adina, they'll throw you off your own board. You have to act very mature. You have to be very stodgy. You have to Robert's Rules of Order. I said, "Yeah, we're here to change the world." The reason I think I made it is I didn't know that I couldn't. I didn't know, and I didn't care, because I felt like everybody walked away from me, and the only person representing was my son. Representing my son was his mother. And I just started seeing things in such a different manner. The way that I had treated people, like, no, that person is as important as that person. And I'm never going to give some people more credit than other people. We're all equal people, And it just, I could see myself in everything I was fussing about. I was like, I didn't go to people's houses when they lost their child and sit with them. I'm mad at people for not doing with me what I've not done with them. And so, part of my learning was quit pointing your fingers. You need to get your stuff straight, Adina, and then give it. It's been a beautiful, like this year, we're not even 2 years old. We started with $0 out of my bank account. I'm divorced. Not that that has anything to do with it, but it does, because I didn't have anybody at home, bearing the brunt of this. But now we had our last fundraiser, we had corporate sponsors. Those people that came didn't even know about what we were doing, and they're in our city. So all these cities in the United States that aren't adopting this program to care for their people, I know this is going to happen. And we sent some law enforcement to crisis intervention training last year. But now they're doing it. They're doing it citywide. I've been able to ride with the sheriff's department. It's just beautiful. But now we're giving it to 911 dispatchers, because they're dealing with crisis, and mental illness and stuff. So it's just it's brought me back to life.
That's beautiful. And, so from nothing, from the ashes, right? The phoenix rises, and there's so many cliches, I guess, around all that, or colloquialisms, or whatever you want to call them. But, it's the truth. When you get the fire lit, and, there's no stopping it. You've got that intensity, and and what I was thinking too, you talk about nobody knows what to say, right? That's the reason we don't go reach out to people. We don't, nobody knows what to say to someone who's gone through tragedy, and the controversy around it sometimes, or whatever. And so I will just offer this, and you can see if this sits well with you, that what you said is just go sit with them. You don't have to say anything. Just put your hand on their shoulder or their leg, and just, maybe a hug, and
Yes.
just sit and be there, and just say, I'm here. I love you. And
You don't even have to. It was so bad. Like, I still have the light on a lot of times, because they came in the middle of the night and woke me up. I mean, it was 3 blocks from our house. And so I remember that it was like my ears were ringing. And so when it gets late at night, because it's totally changed me, it really has. But just having a presence there, really, sometimes talking is not so beneficial. Just be. And I would highly recommend that. People don't worry about how you feel. Start thinking about how they feel. And just, because, after this happened, I wanted to tell the story to I tell everybody my story on airplanes. You don't know your game changer. But I just would go over and over the details, because, I knew I was right, and I wanted people to believe me. And to the point, I mean, I was just mentally ill, and they took me as long as they could. They almost handed me to the next person. Now you babysit her for a while, but I look back and I wouldn't give anything for the people that just sat with me. My first press conference, someone had come out of the city and broke the rules and helped me learn how to have a press conference. I didn't know how to do that. See, I was clueless about what was going on, when it was going to change, what's happening to me. I was working still. It was COVID, so I was working at home. And so I learned things that will benefit me the rest of my life, how to have a press conference. I can just call those now when I need to. So that means I can help other people learn how to do that when they need it. It's always about passing it on. God allowed me, I saw a quote. It said, girl, I got you out of that dark well so you could go back in and pull somebody else out. And that that made me cry because there are people in the well right now. They may not have lost a child. They've lost a lover. They've lost their self-respect. They've lost a job and they feel alone. And, alone is what will get us. And so I think it's just a ministry we can all do by just looking around, because I talked to you last night, Charla, and I didn't know, a really sad thing that you've had to go through. And now that I do, I've had you on my mind and thought about you, prayed for you. It's just,
Well, nobody gets through with nothing, right? No tragedy. So today is Valentine's Day, and 43 years ago today, I had a stillborn baby, my first child. And so I think that's what you're talking about. You know, she's my guardian angel. I don't have a lot of these days. I don't have a lot of sadness, but it was a really sad time. She was almost full term, and we named her Sarah. So today's Sarah's, my other three kids. I got three great kids out, and they calling it Sarah's Day. So happy Sarah's Day. So instead of Valentine's Day, but it's nobody gets out of here without some trauma or tragedies, and we have all of them, or all of us are overcomers, and we can wallow in our difficulties or our sadness, and become a victim and stay victimized and be a complainer about things, or we can do what you did: step up, stand up, make a difference in the next person's lives. And that's tremendous. And I'm so grateful that you had the tenacity to do that, and the strength of character that you didn't know you had.
yes.
Right?
Let me show y'all my daughter real quick because my son gets billing all the time. And this is my beautiful daughter, Emily, the dog lover. And she's out in Albuquerque. And, the lessons I learned, because I was a 16-year-old mother. So she got a better deal than he did. But, one thing I learned is I was trying to make my kids be like what I thought I wanted them to be so that we all looked good, And I told the parents at the funeral, just, love your children the way they are, exactly the way they are, and there's Brad. And, it's funny, this picture was painted by an activist. And, because in the beginning I was mad and I was, up in Washington, and they painted, and this captures his sweet little face, but with the kids, back to the kids thing, you were saying something, and I wanted to make sure that that I did pass on a few, pearls of wisdom that I've learned through all of this.
Love your children, love them as they are. And, we want to guide them, but this looking good is not all it's cracked up to
not
be,
even real.
Right?
It's not, once I was left without, I looked around and I was like, none of that was real. It's going to end. Life on earth is going to end. And I am going to light it up before I go, because I know the truth now about what matters. And I just think, we need each other. We really do.
So
and my book.
And your book is coming out, and the title of the book is it set yet?
The title of the book is Surrender: How 16 Bullets Changed My Life. And we're hoping that we're going to have those books for our big fundraiser in August. So I'm writing.
Frantically writing to get that book done. And the title is so powerful. I mean, just surrender, how 16 bullets changed my life. Woo, that's powerful. It's crazy powerful. And it's intriguing. It's a hook, right? I don't mean it as a, we all need a hook. So if somebody wants to pick up your book and read it, that's a good title to me.
There's lots of ups and downs in there. Yeah.
And you had a hard life, and what, I think we have someone on here that is listening in behind the scenes, and I can't see the name, but if you,
Angie Clute, she is my
Angie.
publicist and
Oh,
one of my best friends and a realtor in Huntsville, Alabama.
well, she's welcome to come on and bring her screen on and ask and join the conversation or ask questions or type them in the chat, whatever, because this is an interactive show. That's the ultimate goal of the Win-Win Women. The founder of Win-Win Women, Paula Fellingham, is to have an interactive show globally. People can get information and get hope and get ideas or whatever they need globally. And let me see what she says. She's an inspiration. Okay, she's typing it in. I'll look at that in a second. I got to get my glasses on and look down and figure figure it all out. But
Well, she sold when this happened. I could not go to the grocery store and without people gossiping about me, and it was just it was really bad. I mean, I'm not going to minimize the true story, but I was never going to live in Huntsville again. I was like, I could not see that this is the point. I could never see having a life again. I had a narcissist had found me, had remade me, had taken me down into all sorts of dark places. And then 2 months later, Brad died. And so I just wanted to leave, but I refused to skulk out because then I was afraid I would drink. So this is the lovely lady that my fairy godmother sent me to. I told her, I said, okay, if I buy a house, give me a realtor that can handle me. And this is the lady she gave me. And she found me this cutest little house, and I bought it sight unseen because I was out of the country. And we began a friendship. So it was all divinely inspired. But she's been able to see it from about the middle of the story on.
and so here she is supporting you in this venue here, and thank you for joining us, Angie. And some of the things that I was thinking about. I mean, you just think you're just this little normal. People don't know about us, right? They just see what we see. But you're a pilot. You're been to all 7 continents. You're an amazing avid traveler. Talk a little bit about those things. I mean, how do you go from being this
Well,
bad, hard
it's got
childhood?
my mama. If mama sees this, she's gonna be like, "What do you mean you were abused?" I'm gonna get in all sorts of trouble. But when I was 10, I was just born this way. I would lay out in the yard and watch the planes go over, which wasn't that prevalent. I'm 61, but the first time I got on an airplane was going to Columbus, Ohio, and I remember all I wanted was to be a flight attendant. I wanted to be a flight attendant so I could see the world. And it kicked off something that if anybody you ever ask about me when I'm buried or cremated, they will say that girl loved Alabama football and she loved to travel and she never stayed home. And I'm not sure what the third one is, but so it just kind of fueled my spirit. It's like a gypsy spirit. But I loved seeing other cultures and I loved the language of the heart. And part of it may have been an escape. People, I've had a lot of naysayers in my life. Once I start to feel good about something, they tell me how it's the wrong thing I'm doing. But they were like, well, you're running. And then when I started doing it on mission trips, I remember my ex-husband said, "You're just wanting to go travel." I said, "Hey, it can benefit both. The Lord knows that I'm traveling for him." And we kind of made a funny out of it in Ethiopia. And I said, "Y'all, we're cuties for Christ," because that was the beginning of me realizing I'm doing something good here. If you don't have to suffer. Like there's some old ideas in life, like you can't wear white after whenever, you can't wear a bikini after whenever, and I'm not going to drive a minivan ever. So I've just started challenging what that is. But travel, and part of it was ego. Part of it was I'm almost there, I started running marathons and I wanted to run one in every state. And I went as hard as I could until I think that was this part of me that wanted to be somebody. And it drove me to win the science fair, to win the math contest. And it was positive until I found boys and alcohol. Then it took a different toll. And then, of course, I quit school at 16. But the good news is, before that was over, I was a professor at 2 colleges and great job with the Army. So I've been an overcomer in many different ways, but it was this last nightmare that brought me to who I was, that brought me to myself. So the biggest trip I've ever taken was that long, dark road of therapy to heal what had made me do a lot of what I had done in my life. So this just was, it put it into overdrive.
Well, you've had I mean, all of those experiences, you do have the drive and the, the strength of character and the push through it, punch through to see things happen. I mean, it takes a lot to become a college professor. It takes a lot to become a pilot, of FAA qualified pilot. It takes a lot to travel to 7 continents. It takes a lot to travel at all these days. It's not, I mean, I was a flight attendant 34 years. It was a great job. And I did travel and see a lot of the world, but it's hard. It's traveling is not that simple, especially the way things are right now. And so all of those pieces to your puzzle of your life and to lead you to leading an organization that's headed to be I'm hoping national organization. I'm inspired. I mean, you've done, and we just think we just do what we do, right? If I start saying all the things that I've done, it's just what I did, it doesn't seem extraordinary to me because I did it. It's just me. Same thing probably with you. It's like, well, I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this, and I'm like, jaw dropped on the floor. You've done all those things. Marathons? Are you kidding? And so
none of it mattered, though. None of it mattered until, like, I just discounted all that other stuff because it was easy enough to get. But this last thing, there are times where I wake up and I go, I can't believe it. God, you did this with me. You took a scattered person as an executive director of a foundation that very well could be national. I've got chill bumps now, because I know where my power comes from. And as long as I keep on the down low, he just keeps taking me around to different things that I've wanted to do my whole life. He's giving me those things. It's not the way I thought it would be, but he waited until I could take the baton and do it to help other people. And I just have to say, the woman that encouraged me to get my pilot's license, had it not been for a woman pushing me to do it, I never would have done it. It's something I'm so proud of because it wasn't natural to me. It was very difficult. But I got word today, right before we came on, that her son had drowned last night in a riptide in Puerto Rico, which is where she is. And, we have flown back and forth. She interviewed me for a job in Italy and hired me, and I didn't take it because my kid was still in school. But we've had a history together of, 30 years. And so when we were getting ready for this today, I was concerned I wouldn't be able to focus. But see, now I know what to do when somebody loses a child. See, I have the information now. I can't ever look away this time. And so once you have been given a gift, you've made it through the pain or the storm. It's your responsibility. The book I thought would be about, look, I've come. The book is about, let me show you girls what I've learned. wouldn't have never learned had I not been in a crisis that almost killed me. These are things that can change a lot of people's lives, and I didn't feel like I was anything until this happened. And it's only because I feel like I found a person inside my body, and I'm going to use the person to stand up for other people and love people when nobody else loves them. And we can do this. I mean, if I can do this, we've all got it, because I would look at these little people like Sandra Bullock, The Blind Side, and I'm like, I'm sure that's true, but she had a husband. I'm sure that's true. And then when this happened, I'm like, this is God. And if you think you're little, you're not. Is it time, girly?
No, well, I'm just looking at the chat that Angie has put in. You are truly an amazing inspiration, and things don't just happen by accident. It's God's intervention. Everything happens. I mean, my mantras, everything is always working out for me, because where I am is all I have. And even in crisis, those moments you were in crisis, you didn't have another moment to be. Only where you are is where you can be. This moment in time is all we have. And when we can begin to relax and realize that our circumstances aren't us, but it is the only place we have to take the next step from. I don't have last second, last word, last week, last generation. I only have the next word and the next step. And so when we can stop wishing we were elsewhere, because there's nowhere else to be but where we are. And I think we talked about this last night. It was like the now, we're in the now, we're in the now. And people say, be in the now. Well, what does that mean? I mean, I'm like, yeah, it's now, but it means that you don't have any other place than where you are. And when you recognize that there's something to be done, and you do it, then you have that beautiful spirit. There's someone else just joined on. Does anyone, I see someone else just joining in. And if you'd like to either step in, ask a question, or maybe I can't tell if turn off the video, whatever. Anyway,
You know
thank
what,
you.
Charla, though?
Yeah.
And too, though, because I believe in, when we say things to people like, just do this, we need to show them, because if this had happened and I had had 20,000 friends, I would never have gone inward. I would have gone outward, which is the way I live my life. And so, if you are interested and you don't know how to do that, please contact me at a later time and I will walk through that with you, because I wanted to be better and get better my whole life. I read every self-help book there was known to man. I just couldn't get there that way. And so I think it takes longer to stop and help somebody. But once you realize the answers are in you, it's really powerful. You just have to stop and listen.
So one of the things you wanted to, what do you want to leave the group with here? What is the final word? What is your call to action, and how do they find you? You just offered that. So how do people find you? Is that gramius.org, or do you have another means to reach out to you? I'm sure Facebook.
Yes, well,
ADIN, I'm gonna, because it's we'll be on podcast, it's ADINA PEYTON, Adina Peyton. You can find her on Facebook and other places.
yes, I am on TikTok as Adina Inc. That's Adina INC. And I'm on Instagram as the Dragonfly Firecracker. And that's our symbol of GRAMI right there. And we have a website for GRAMI. It's gramius.org. So you can check that out and read all about our programs. And if you're interested in any type of empowerment coaching or want to know what I talked about today, what that meant, then you can reach me at Adina Inc. LLC at gmail.com. Now, my website's being developed right now, so that will be Adina Peyton. But if you would like to reach out, you can reach me on any of those social media platforms. I'm not hard to find. If you totally forget, just say mother of son who got shot 16 times, and it will pull up so many articles on that you will be able to find my name. I can always find something that I really want to find. So please reach out, because life is short and we want to live it as full as we can. And I cannot thank you enough for giving me a platform just to be able to tell people there's hope and there is a way to survive tragedy and feel great afterward. And I just want to, kind of, if anybody has any podcasts they would like to have me on, I would be happy to do that or speak anywhere, anytime. Thank
Well,
you
you've
so
got a
much.
great, an incredible message. We've got you, and both are your book is coming out with Beyond Publishing, who is Michael Butler, is also my publisher. We expect it to be out August 16th for the
No
big,
later than.
no later than August 16th for the the third anniversary of.
It will almost be the fourth. It was 2020, November 17th, 2020. And it's called Surrender, which is what we all need to do. Surrender. How 16 bullets changed my life.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed having you today, and I feel like we're new best friends. I mean, I collect people, and you do too, and I love that you feel real now, right? I mean, don't you've stepped into your purpose, you feel real. And I think that's what you were searching for all those years. And I know that you're not alone in that. And, one of the things, I asked you about a quote and you're like, this, you just can't make this up, right? Who can make up that, these tragedies happen and things happen and life happens. Life keeps lifing, and we get the choice to go dark or go light. And
you find what you're looking for. You really do.
You get what you focus on.
Love,
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm grateful that we've had this time, and I appreciate Angie coming in and contributing to the chat, and that she's your rock. Yeah, we all need a rock. We all need somebody that we can, the one person, that just really gets us. And so, and your daughter, I can't imagine how it has affected her as well, because
it really has.
Yeah, it's her brother, and you've changed, and she's changed. So I'm sure, I just hugs out to her too today, that she deals with things as well. So I mean, all of us do, but she's
doing amazing.
She's the limelight,
just like a superhero. Yeah,
the limelight on one, and then sometimes the other child gets a little bit lost in the shuffle. So I'm sure you've done a great job, and that she's done a great job in being an avid supporter of her mom. So
thank you.
Love you very much. We're going to call it a day. Next week will be Charla. You can go to my website, charlaanderson.com, being revamped as well, and find what's going on in my world. And we're on Facebook. We're all over the place. Charla, the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating, especially you. And we're gonna always. I gotta find that. I gotta find that. Yeah. So it's interesting that I'm just at the end of these things. Sometimes I get kind of lost because the stop recording button disappears. There it goes. So here we are, and I will ask you to always, always, always remember to choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show, encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.